Romania, 1989. The last communist dictatorship in Eastern Europe falls. But not quietly. Nicolae Ceaușescu and his wife are arrested on Christmas Day and executed by firing squad 2 days later. What came after was a reckoning. And 35 years later, it is still happening.
Imagine opening a file about yourself, a file that contains every single detail of your life and that was written by someone you trusted. It is estimated that every third person here in Romania has such a file. These files were created by the Securitate, which was the secret police here in Romania during communist times. The secret police here was modeled on the Soviet Union's secret police, and it was created to monitor absolutely everyone.
The people that were arrested were not only like groups made especially to oppose the regime. They were just like ordinary people.
Since 1999, Romanians were able to open their files. They were able to read what was written about them, and suddenly these agents who wrote these reports, they weren't faceless agents anymore. They became known names. Sometimes they were priests, they were family members, spouses, friends, people who were from their inner circle who betrayed them.
Those who want to see the file, they also want to know the identity of the informant.
In today's video, we are talking about what communism did to Romania. And I'm not talking about the ideology, I'm talking about the actual human cost. I will do my best to take a look at some of the secret police files, and we will ask Romanians directly what it felt like to be spied on.
After 10 years, just tell him your brother is dead. Shot in the head.
But before we actually talk to people, let me give you a little bit more of context. The Securitate was founded in 1948, and its job was surveillance and control, but not only of dissidents or political opponents, but of everyone. The logic behind the system was simple. You couldn't really know who was a threat until you watched everybody. This here behind me, by the way, is the former headquarters of the Securitate. At its height, the Securitate had about 11,000 officers and an estimate of about 400,000 to 700,000 informers. The numbers aren't official because it is actually hard to estimate them. Lots of files have been destroyed in 1989, and also a lot of informers were never officially registered. But that number is hard to comprehend. We are talking about a country of roughly 22 million people. That means that, statistically speaking, in basically every social group, every church, every school, every work environment, there has been statistically at least one person reporting back to the government. But what did they actually report on? Well, basically everything. Religious practice, the letters you sent abroad, relationships with foreigners, the jokes you made about the regime, like basically everything that could be seen as a threat. The informers were recruited by several ways. Some of them actually were committed ideologically, and others were simply forced to inform the Securitate. Some people were threatened that they would either lose their job or lose their housing, or that their children will be denied at the university. And the result was a society that simply couldn't trust anybody. Basically, nobody could ever know if the conversation they had was actually secure or not. What were the reasons for a wife, a husband, a daughter to actually inform on their own family members?
Human nature.
Was it fear as well?
Not in all the cases. There is this thesis that people who collaborated with the Securitate were doing it because of fear. And I can tell you this after more than 10 years of studying the Securitate archive, that this wasn't the main reason. Because if you try to go in the logic of the Securitate officer, you realize that the Securitate officer didn't need an afraid informer. Many informers accepted this situation in order to ease their professional path, maybe, to be safe, maybe, you know?
So for some benefits for themselves.
Yes, but it's interesting that the benefits Even me, when I came in the institution, I was thinking that the benefits were very large. No.
That environment of not knowing if someone was reporting back on you doesn't just disappear when the regime ends. Actually, Romania still scores at the bottom of social trust surveys in Europe until today. And the connection to the communist regime is hard to dismiss. But there's one thing that I keep thinking about, and that is that people were spied on for decades, for more than 40 years actually. And then in 1989, when the regime fell, people started to make assumptions about who was spying on them, but all of these assumptions, they were thoughts, they were never secure. And then in 1999, suddenly the government told Romanians that they were now able to open their files. They were able to read exactly what has been reported on them and who. And that changed everything. Nowadays, people can request their files at your institute, right?
Yes.
Do a lot of people actually do that?
Yes, this was a very popular thing in the first year of our institution. Those who want to see the file, who are very curious, and they also want to know the identity of the informer, because when you read the file, you see a nickname.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you don't see the real identity of the informer.
But it can be traced somehow.
Yes, that's the role of of me and my colleagues.
Yeah.
That's the disclosure of the.
Do a lot of people get a name from a person they actually know?
In many situations, yes, and it's very interesting to see how they, before we are doing our job, how they realize who were the informers, because they analyze the context and they realize, oh, this was my colleague, or oh, this was my aunt, or this was, and the very sad case is, oh, this was my wife, or this was my husband, or this was my sister, or even my son, or my daughter, or my mother, or my father. These are the saddest situations.
And how do people react if they realize that someone of their inner circle betrayed them in such a way, or did they already suspect such a thing, maybe?
We saw different situations. We saw situations in which people came, read the file, and understood. The file confirmed what they believed, and it was a confirmation. It was, let's say, like a relief. For other people, we saw many tears.
I wanted to find someone with a personal connection to the informer file. So I kept asking people on the street about them, and coincidentally ran into someone who had a story to share that was hard to believe.
I can't believe what just happened. We just randomly found the person we were looking for. Actually, I was looking at these buildings here and I was wondering, we are in the heart of Bucharest, I was wondering what this is because they seem to be quite abandoned. So I asked someone and they told me that this building here was a building where they made electricity. It was one of the first ones in Europe. But then I kept asking a lady a few questions about communist time. She told me, for example, that the time was extremely hard. There was hardly any food, especially no luxuries like chocolate or anything that is unnecessary. That simply didn't exist. Food was rationed and so on and so forth. She said the times were extremely hard. And then I asked her about the informer files. And she started to talk about an archive where the informal files are located. And when I kept asking her if she knew someone who has opened it, she actually told me that she's working there. So she's like the person who can actually tell us more about these files. She didn't have time right now, but I got her contact, so we will hopefully meet her on another day. Now this here is the building that I was so curious to visit ever since I started my research about this topic. This building is where the Securitate files are actually stored until today. In 1999 there was a law published that allowed Romanians to actually open their files if they had one. But there's a problem with that because it is actually not that easy. A lot of files were destroyed. In 1989 a lot of trucks were seen that left Securitate buildings carrying lots of files that were meant to be destroyed and burned. So a lot of evidence could never be stored here. But it is said that this building here holds an estimated 25 kilometers of files. Romanians who have one can actually enter this building and request their files here. But it's not like they would just look at a document telling their own story. They will also look at names of people who actually betrayed them. Quite often these were people of their inner circle, family members, friends, co-workers, and so on and so forth. However, requesting a file is everything but easy. It quite often takes months to get your file, and even if you get it, it's hundreds, sometimes thousands of pages long. So we just got interrupted by a very kind policeman. It's Sunday today, so unfortunately we cannot enter, but he just told us that we can come back from Monday to Friday and talk to someone in there. We are actually going to try that because I would love to talk to someone who maybe knows someone who has opened up their files. So we'll give it another try tomorrow.
So the next day we tried again and were lucky enough to get in touch with an investigator who was spontaneous enough to talk to us.
So I actually said before that there are 25 kilometers of files in the archive, but you just corrected me, it's 28. And he also told me these files, it's like 28 kilometers of the files like standing next to each other, not laid down, but like standing next to each other, just so that you can imagine a little bit how much information there is actually.
Yeah, and I should complete the information because we now, at the time as we speak, we have 28 kilometers, but the archive is not complete. Even though the other institutions gave us the large amount of the archive, there are still files which are not at our institution.
But you've read a few files, I guess. What is in there? What kind of information is in there?
Well, it's very interesting to see that secret police, in let's say almost 50 years of life, could reach this sort of, let's say, spread all over the society. Basically, they could, I don't say that they knew everything, but they could knew everything. They were seeking to find, to see and to find and to reduce and eliminate any form of opposition to the communist regime.
Does someone of your family has opened its file?
I read files from my family. Unfortunately, they don't live anymore. Okay. They were victims of the communist regime. They were imprisoned for their political activities in the interwar period. So it's just a thing for our family memory, and that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
What can we learn until today from that history?
Now we live in freedom and democracy. But in order to have them, to keep them, to live in freedom and democracy, liberty and democracy, you have to work day by day.
We got so many incredible insights from Andrei. It was a very interesting interview, an interview that was much longer than what I was able to show you here in this video. There's actually a link in the description below that will lead you to a private page, a membership page, where you can see all of the entire videos that you've seen here today, and also more detailed videos about future destinations that we will visit. So if you are interested in that, make sure to click the link in the description below and you can check out the entire videos. I want to show you this one here. This is a gift by Andrei. You can see in this image the archive actually. This is what it looks like, and you can see rows with thousands of files in here. It's insane.
This is Simona. She is a principal attorney who helps victims of the communist regime to find answers.
Difference from community, like what was that change in the 90s? How did that feel?
Very, very different. Every people live with fear. Fear to security, fear to police, because every people she's listen to phone everybody. It's impossible to work, to talk about somebody what you want to say. No. If you did some words of Ceaușescu, high life of communist, it's possible to go in the jail. without trial, without judgment, no.
The family members didn't even
No,
get
no.
informed about what happened, for example, to their
Yes,
sons.
Yes,
Their
yes,
son was
yes,
gone.
yes.
Like they
Yes.
took away their
Yes.
sons, their husbands.
I
They were gone. They didn't know what
have on
happened.
trial. I give trial for one client, and she's tell me she don't know what's happened with your brothers. 10 years.
10 years afterwards.
10 years. Don't know anything about these
Like
people.
her brothers.
Yes, she
you-
stake to security,
Uh-huh.
and family don't know what happened with him.
And you are doing a trial for her
Yes,
to
yes,
find out
yes.
now
She's yes.
what happened to her brother.
After 10 years,
Uh-huh.
she's tell him, your brother is dead, shot in the head,
For what?
because she studied in the short religions song. She sung this song, and religion opinion, it's impossible to manifestation in the communist.
Do these family members get any compensation? For example, in that case, when she learned her brother was shot, does she get any kind of compensation, or what happens afterwards?
After trial, law is changed and don't give him any compensation.
Okay, so he just knew what happened, and that's
yes.
everything. So you became a lawyer out of a purpose to help people find justice.
Yes.
That's
In
beautiful.
this period, to Ceaușescu, everybody, lawyer and judge, make politic of government, not for people. Don't exist in this period justice real for politic crime. Don't exist. Everybody, she's guilty without trial.
Yeah. When we came here, to be honest, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I definitely didn't expect something like that. You could see the emotion in Simone's eyes when she told us about that person that got shot just for practicing a religion. This is so hard to comprehend today, yet it isn't that far in the past. I believe that Simone is doing a super important job. She is helping people who need to find justice, and that is incredibly important. I really appreciate her telling us this entire story, telling us more about her work. It was extremely interesting. I still need some time to process all of what she has told us, I think. If you now think that the history of Romania is a unique kind of authoritarian government history, you are actually wrong. There were several countries here in Eastern Europe that had similar governments and a similar mentality back then. However, Romania's history remains unfinished. They are still opening up files. There are still files that couldn't be found, files that have been destroyed, and especially what Simone said, people do not find justice for what happened to them, and that is actually the worst. There aren't really trials here and so on and so forth. There's still a lot of work to do here. I do believe that people deserve to be heard, and I do believe that it is very important that the world knows about what happened here, so I'm glad that I was able to make this video. If you want to see another similar history, I created this video here. It talks about the communist time in Albania, which was similar yet very different. So it's also a very interesting story. Make sure to watch it out next if you want to. And if you want to see similar videos in the future, make sure to subscribe to the channel.